Nigel Mansell. Wir haben gestern ein turbulentes Abschlusstraining erlebt, in dem der Besitzer der Pole Position mehrmals gewechselt hat. Auch unser Österreicher Gerhard Berger hatte gestern zweimal den besten Startplatz inne gehabt und wurde schließlich Vierter. Ich habe im Augenblick kein Bild. Ich hoffe, Sie zu Hause haben es besser als ich. Ich darf Ihnen ganz schnell sagen, 4 Fahrer können also heuer noch Weltmeister werden. Sie sind 3 Rennen vor Schluss nur durch 13 Punkte getrennt. Nigel Mansell führt noch, Nelson Piquet ist ihm durch den Sieg in Monza bis auf 5 Punkte nahe gerückt. Alain Prost ist Dritter und Ayrton Senna Vierter. In der zweiten Startreihe haben wir dann Alain Prost und Gerhard Berger. Ich hoffe, Sie können mittlerweile etwas sehen. Ich habe hier überhaupt kein Bild. Gerhard Berger also wie zuletzt in Monza auf dem 4. Startplatz in der zweiten Reihe. Alain Prost, der Weltmeister, steht neben ihm. Alain Prost hat große Schwierigkeiten im Augenblick, sich zu konzentrieren. Sein 33-jähriger Bruder ist Donnerstagabend in Frankreich an Krebs gestorben und man kann sich vorstellen, wie Alain Prost hier bei den Trainingsfahrten in Eschtoril zumute war. Es spricht für ihn, dass er trotzdem diesen sehr guten 3. Startplatz erreicht hat. Neben Gerhard Berger, den Sie hier sehen, und neben ihm am Wagen links ist Peter Collins, der Teamchef. Rory Byrne, der Konstrukteur, ist nicht hier zum ersten Mal in diesem Jahr. Man sagt offiziell, dass er in England ist, um mit dem Auto Windkanal-Test zu machen. Ich glaube, dass er viel eher schon am neuen Auto baut. Sie haben vielleicht gesehen, dass die Reifen von Berger und von Theo Fabi, dem Teamkollegen, elektrisch vorgeheizt werden. Das ist ein Trick, den das Benetton-Holman-Team schon im vorigen Jahr hat. Fabi noch nicht eingestiegen, der kleine Italiener, der zuletzt zweimal Pole Position hatte in Zeltweg. Und in Monza hier gibt er gerade noch ein italienisches Fernsehinterview. Theo Fabi, er ist im Team von Benetton seit gestern, muss ich sagen, die Nummer 1 geworden. Seit Gerhard Berger nämlich seinem Team erklärt hat, er würde das Team verlassen. Er hat ihnen noch nicht gesagt Ferrari, aber das wird nächste Woche, wahrscheinlich am Mittwoch, offiziell bei einer Weltpressekonferenz Ferraris. Und darum hat auch nicht Gerhard Berger, sondern Theo Fabi gestern im Abschlusstraining den größeren Turbolader bekommen. 15 Kilometer pro Stunde schnell auf der Geraden und trotzdem Fabi in der Startaufstellung hinter Berger. Nelson Piquet ist der Tipp vieler Experten, vor allem auch von Niki Lauda, für den Weltmeistertitel in diesem Jahr. 17 Grand-Prix-Siege bereits zuletzt in Monza, und Sie sehen, dass das Williams-Honda-Team auch den Trick, genau wie McLaren, von Benetton übernommen hat. Den Trick mit den vorgeheizten Reifen. Ich könnte mir vorstellen, dass die Reifen heute im Grand Prix von Portugal, hier Keke Rosberg, eine mitentscheidende, eine ganz wichtige Rolle spielen werden. Die Goodyear-Piloten, glaube ich, werden zweimal Reifen wechseln müssen, die Pirelli-Fahrer nur einmal. Und Gerhard Berger und Theo Fabi haben vor, sogar das Rennen, wenn möglich, ohne Boxenstopp, nonstop durchzufahren. Also durchaus möglich, dass durch die Reifenfrage heute dieser Grand Prix von Portugal entschieden wird. Stefan Johansson im zweiten Ferrari, er ist der Fahrer, der Gerhard Berger Platz machen wird. Man muss trotzdem um seine Zukunft nicht zu bangen. Johansson kann wählen zwischen McLaren und zwischen Benetton. Ich glaube, er wird zu McLaren gehen als Nachfolger Keke Rosbergs. Riccardo Patrese, die Brabham BMW sind in den letzten Rennen etwas besser geworden, aber sind doch noch keine Frontrunner, wie es in der Formel 1 heißt, noch keine absoluten Spitzenfahrzeuge. Der Grund ist der geneigte Motor, immer wieder Probleme mit dem Ölabsaugen in den Kurven, vor allem in den Rechtskurven. Das ist René Arnoux, hatte zuletzt in Monza das gleiche Pech wie Teamkollege Alliot, das gleiche Pech auch wie Ayrton Senna. Vielleicht erinnern Sie sich, Senna ist nur 100 Meter weit gekommen am Start. Der Grund war, dass alle Fahrer mit dem Renault-Motor zuletzt in Monza eine schadhafte Serie von Kupplungen erwischt haben, und das war das Problem dieser Fahrer beim Grand Prix von Monza. Pole Position also heute Ayrton Senna, seine 7. in diesem Jahr, neben ihm Mansell, dahinter Prost und Berger, Fabi und Piquet, dann Rosberg und Johansson, Patrese und Arnoux, weiter dann Alliot und Warwick, Alboreto und Tambay, Dumfries und De Cesaris, Jones und Nannini, Brundle und Palmer, Boutsen und Danner, die beiden Aeros also nebeneinander, dann Streif und Ginzani, Capelli und Rotengatter, und als 27. durch eine Petition des Osella-Teams, durch eine Unterschriftenaktion bei allen anderen Teams ins Feld gelassen. Der Kanadier Alan Burke, zuletzt im Monster, durch den Italiener Alex Caffi ersetzt. Das war damals ein Problem wegen der Sponsorgelder. Wir haben noch einige Augenblicke Zeit bis zum Start. Denken Sie zurück an Monza, wie aufregend die letzten Sekunden, jetzt noch 5 Minuten, damals gewesen sind. Alain Prost hat eine leere Batterie, musste ins Ersatzauto umsteigen, ist aus den Boxen gestartet, ist zu spät allerdings ins andere Auto gestiegen und musste dann disqualifiziert werden. Er hat über die Streckenposten und vor allem über die Sportkommissäre geschimpft und dann noch extra $5.000 Strafe bekommen. Ja, und Poleman Theo Fabi ist am Vorstart nicht weggekommen, weil ihm der Motor abgestorben ist. 70 Runden mal 4,350 Kilometer heute in Eschtoril. Es ist der dritte klassische Grand Prix von Portugal der Neuzeit. Es hat ja früher schon einige Grand Prix-Rennen in Portugal gegeben, in Oporto. Sterling Moss hat einmal gewonnen. Aber heute der dritte hier auf dieser Strecke von Eschtoril, Sturil, wie die Portugiesen sagen. Ich hoffe, es ist Ihnen recht, wenn wir bei der deutschen Aussprache bleiben. Vor 2 Jahren dieses unvergessliche Rennen, in dem Niki Lauda vom 15. Startplatz aus noch Zweiter werden konnte, hinter Alain Prost, seinem Teamkollegen bei McLaren und damit Weltmeister. Ein Rennen, das wir nie vergessen werden und Sie, glaube ich, zu Hause auch nicht. Und wir alle erinnern uns noch, dass die größten Gegner Niki Laudas auf dem Weg zum Weltmeistertitel damals eigentlich die beiden Toleman-Fahrer gewesen sind, Stefan Johansson und Ayrton Senna. Aus den Toleman wurden inzwischen die Benetton. Vielleicht ist das ein gutes Zeichen für Gerhard Berger, dass also diese Autos in Eschtoril immer gut laufen. Und noch einmal die Startaufstellung jetzt ein bisschen langsamer. Senna, Menzel, Prost und Berger. Das heißt, unser Tiroler mitten in der Phalanx der Fahrer, die um den Weltmeistertitel kämpfen, und schräg hinter ihm ist Theo Fabi. Piquet eine ähnlich schlechte Startposition wie in Monza, wo er gewonnen hat. Rosberg fährt noch 3 Rennen bis zu seinem Rücktritt. Hat er mir gesagt, am liebsten mit 3 Siegen aufhören, und es ärgert ihn ein bisschen, dass seine Begeisterung für den Rennsport eigentlich nicht nachgelassen hat. Es wäre ihm lieber, hat er gesagt, würde mich der Rennsport überhaupt nicht mehr interessieren, und dann hätte ich viel leichter noch meine letzten 3 Rennen zu fahren, aber die Begeisterung ist immer noch da. Michele Alboreto hatte gestern im Training das Pech mit dem weggebrochenen rechten Frontspoiler, hat dadurch möglicherweise einen besseren Startplatz verloren, und das Benetton-Team hat einen Platz in der ersten Startreihe von Gerhard Berger hergeschenkt, weil man Teamkollegen Theo Fabi bevorzugt hat. Berger fuhr mit sehr viel Risiko, mit einem Einsatz und mit einem Risiko, zu dem sich Theo Fabi nie durchgerungen hätte, war einmal in der schnellsten Kurve des Kurses am Rausfliegen. Wäre mit dem größeren, mit dem gleichen Turbolader, also wie Theo Fabi, nämlich an sich in der ersten Reihe gestanden, zum 3. Mal nach Spa und nach Zeltweg, so in der 4. Reihe, 2. Reihe auf dem 4. Startplatz. Ivano Capelli mit dem neuen AJS, einem französischen Wagen von einem Belgier konstruiert. Es sind Teile des Renault noch verwendet worden. Apropos Renault, am Dienstag wird sich Renault, darf ich Ihnen vielleicht streng geheim weiter sagen, vom Formel-1-Sport verabschieden. Es haben sich einige Dinge getan in den letzten Tagen und Stunden. McLaren wird mit Porsche-Motoren weiterfahren im nächsten Jahr. Mansour Ogier wird sehr viel Geld bezahlen, um einen neuen Motor zu entwickeln. Man hat hier bereits einen weiterentwickelten Motor. Prost hatte geheime Testfahrten in Imola, ein Motor, der der Konkurrenz große Rätsel aufgibt. Auf alle Fälle größtes Stillschweigen bei McLaren. Auf alle Fälle war Alain Prost heute im Aufwärmtraining mit vollen Tank 2 Sekunden schneller als die Konkurrenz. Wobei man sagen muss, nicht ganz volle Tanks, sondern halbvolle Tanks, und außerdem mit einem Auto, das auf Regen abgestimmt war, weil Prost mit seinem eigentlichen Rennfahrzeug heute im Training Motorprobleme hatte. Aber trotzdem, man muss sehr stark, glaube ich, mit Prost noch rechnen, was den Endkampf und den Weltmeistertitel betrifft. McLaren also auch im nächsten Jahr mit den deutschen Park Porsche Motoren. Auch der zweite deutsche Motorlieferer, nämlich BMW, wird weitermachen. Am Dienstag hat sich Bernie Ecclestone, der Teamchef von Brabham, entschlossen, bei BMW anzurufen und zu sagen, okay, wir erfüllen unseren Vertrag, wir nützen unseren Vertrag aus, und wir werden auch im nächsten Jahr mit BMW-Motoren fahren. Was Benetton machen wird, weiß man noch nicht, ist im Augenblick vielleicht auch nicht ganz so wichtig. Eines noch über BMW, weil er da direkt die Zukunft Gerhard Bergers dranhängt. BMW hat eine Tourenwagen-Option mit Gerhard Berger, einen Vorvertrag noch für das nächste Jahr, wo er 5, 6 Tourenwagen-Europameisterschaftsläufe für BMW fahren müsste. Ferrari möchte Berger nur exklusiv. Jetzt hat Wolfgang Peter Flor, der Motorsportchef der Deutschen, gemeinsam mit Niki Lauda, dem Berater, ausgeheckt, dass man also diese Option einfach um ein paar Jahre verschieben wird. Gerhard Berger darf allerdings, solange er Ferrari fährt, keine Tourenwagenrennen für Lancia oder Fiat, also die Konzernfirmen von Ferrari, bestreiten. Darf ich Ihnen bei der Aufwärmrunde kurz den Kurs von Eschtoril vorstellen? 230 Kilometer pro Stunde, 4. Gang für diese erste Kurve nach Start und Ziel. 300 Kilometer für die nächste. sehr, sehr schnelle Passage hier. Dann zweiter Gang etwa 80. Sie sehen das sehr deutlich auf dieser Streckenskizze jeweils eingeblendet. Dritter Gang wieder zurück in den zweiten, etwa 70. Langsamste Stelle des Kurses und für uns die vierte Kamera. Dann eine sehr, sehr schnelle Passage. Dieser Rechtsknick wird absolut voll gefahren, ähnlich wie dem Knick auf dem Österreich-Ring. Fünfter Gang voll, 280. Dann sechster Gang sogar, Höchstgeschwindigkeit lagen dort im Training bei 228. Dann dritter Gang 120. Vierter Gang wieder diese Linkskurve, fünfter. Dann die Rechtskurve im dritten Gang mit 120. Vierter, fünfter, oben der Rechtsknick, vierter Gang, 200 Kilometer pro Stunde. Weiter im fünften, vierten, dritten und interessant, dass man gleich in dieser Linkskurve schon bremsen muss für die folgende Rechtskurve. Die Zielkurve, fünfter Gang, sehr schwer zu fahren, weil sie sehr wellig ist. Die Autos liegen dort sehr, sehr schlecht und Sie werden es ja sehen, in der Bremszone für die erste Kurve werden Sie sehen, wie holprig diese Rennstrecke ist. Sie werden wieder dieses Durchschlagen, das Aufschlagen der Autos sehen und Sie werden sich vielleicht noch erinnern, dass Alain Prost dort voriges Jahr in einen Unfall gehabt hat, am Ende dieser langen Start-Zielgeraden im Zweikampf mit Michele Alboreto. Das war voriges Jahr im Frühjahr jenes großartige Regenrennen, das Ayrton Senna mit einer Start-Zielführung gewonnen hat. Lotus und Senna hätten sich auch für heute Regen gewünscht, schon allein, weil der Sechszylinder Renault-Motor wesentlich weicher ist bei Rennen. Hier haben Sie noch einmal die Zielkurve eingeblendet. Einige schnelle Kurven, einige langsame Kurven, einige mittelschnelle Kurven. Ferrari, das weiß man, hat in den mittelschnellen Kurven immer wieder Probleme. Für den BMW Vierzylindermotor sind die langsamen Kurven ein gewaltiges Handicap. Das hat alles mit der Beschleunigung zu tun, aber Gerhard Berger hat uns ja im Laufe dieses Jahres schon so oft überrascht, dass ihm, glaube ich, auch heute alles zuzutrauen ist. Mit dem Tourenwagen-Sieg in Nogaro glaubt Berger, dass er seine Pechsträhne für heuer endlich und endgültig abgeschüttelt hat. Sie sehen, dass Ayrton Senna als Pacemaker ein relativ hohes Tempo angeschlagen hat. Das muss er relativ lange warten. Bis hinten alles in Formation ist, 27 Autos. Links vorne Ayrton Senna, rechts Nigel Mansell, links Alain Prost und rechts Gerhard Berger, vierter Startplatz, zweite Startreihe, genau wie in Monza. Der deutsche Christian Danner fährt heute wieder mit dem Fernsehkameraauto, hat sich mit diesem Auto, mit dieser Kamera am Freitag im Training gedreht auf einer sehr rutschigen Stelle, als er versucht hat, René Arnoux zu überholen. So, jetzt scheint
And it's go. Mansell really laying down the rubber, and Mansell is in the lead. Into the first turn, Mansell is leading. Senna is second, Berger is third. Piquet is already up to fourth place, with Prost down to fifth position, and Theo Farley in seventh place. So Nigel Mansell, an absolutely magnificent start. He came out very late onto the grid, forced his way through the crowd into his second position on the grid, and Nigel Mansell led at the first corner.
Yes, and Mansell really got the drop. Then it's very difficult to get these turbocharged cars off the line cleanly. Mansell got the clutch going, the rear wheel spinning, and he positively streaked away. But Senna is now having a look down the inside. So Mansell and Senna already have pulled out a little bit of a lead.
And Mansell and Senna had big problems with each other in the Australian Grand Prix at the end of last year, and then the Brazilian Grand Prix at the beginning of this year. And Mansell's making quite sure that that doesn't happen again, or trying to, by endeavouring to ease away from Ayrton Senna. And by the way, for Australia, Alan Jones in the Lola Ford started in 17th place on the grid. But at the present moment, lap one, Mansell leading in the Williams Honda. Behind him, Ayrton Senna, winner of last year's Portuguese Grand Prix in the appallingly wet conditions. And just look at the way Mansell is going. It's Berger in third place, Piquet challenging him for fourth, and then the McLaren.
The man to watch at the moment is Nelson Piquet in fourth place. He didn't qualify as well as he would have liked to. He was sixth in practice. He got a good start, but he's really in the charge. Mansell, very confident at the moment, driving very coolly, is not in a hurry. He's got off to the start that he wanted. He's got himself in front. and he's going to do things at his own pace for the moment.
So, lap 2, and Nigel Mansell leading. Ayrton Senna in second position. Behind him in third place is Gerhard Berger. In fourth position is Nelson Piquet. Fifth is Alain Prost, and sixth is Theo Fabi. And by the way, you will see a strange-looking car later on in the race, and that is Keke Rosberg's McLaren, which for this Portuguese Grand Prix has been painted a bright yellow, and that certainly solves the commentators' identification problems between himself and his teammate Alain Prost. So Alain Prost in the red and white McLaren and Keke Rosberg in the yellow and white. But there, in the yellow, the blue, the red and the white Williams, Nigel Mansell, lap 2. Ayrton Senna last year in Portugal led from lap 1 to lap 67 and won the race. Is Nigel Mansell going to lead all the way? Over the line to complete 2 laps, Mansell, Senna, Berger, Piquet in fourth position, and then behind Nelson Piquet, Prost, then it's Fabi, seventh is Keke Rosberg in the unfamiliar-looking McLaren.
And Alain Prost was very quick in the warm-up this morning. His race car, as Murray said earlier, was they had some trouble with it, so they changed that. He's been driving the spare, but he got a chance to give it a run out this morning. And the 2 McLarens were very quick indeed. So Prost will be playing a fairly patient game at the moment. He's not in a hurry to get past. He can afford to take no risks, because the World Championship now really depends on who can finish healthily these last 3 races.
And it's worth saying, even as early as this, that this is the last race in which Nigel Mansell can score before having to discard points. That is because there are 16 races in the World Championship, of which the best 11 scores count. Nigel Mansell has already scored 10 times. Ayrton Senna, that you're looking at in second place, has only scored 8 times, as has Nelson Piquet. So after this race, Mansell will have to discard points. That's why a good finish is even more important for him than usual. And he's leading now on lap 3. This is Christian Danner's car, the Arrows with its BMW engine, and look at the boost gauge in the center of your screen. You'll see the needle move as Danner changes gear. That is cleaning fluid. It doesn't mean it's raining here in Portugal, far from it. It's hot, humid, but absolutely dry. And Christian Danner in the Arrows car is going to be giving us some driver's eye impressions of what it's like to go round this circuit at well over 120 miles an hour average. And here it is, Danner. And Danner at the present moment is well down the grid, but that gives us a chance to see what it's like in front of him as Nigel Mansell, lap 4, 61 points in the World Championship from the 10 finishes that he's had so far, and you can see clearly for yourselves now the gap between Mansell, who was in the Lotus team, which Ayrton Senna, who's chasing him now in second place, is in, and last year Nigel Mansell joined the Williams team, 1985, since when he has literally never looked back. And he goes through to complete his 4th lap, and Senna and Mansell are pulling away from the rest.
They certainly are, and Mansell's just beginning to put a little bit of air between himself and Ayrton Senna, and that's a situation he will like. He is not going to be giving it 10 tenths at the moment. He wants to try and ease away from Senna if he can, without pushing himself or the car too much. And there's Nelson Piquet chasing hard and looking for a way round. Piquet is the man who at the moment the pressure falls on, with Alain Prost right behind him. So the World Championship contenders are all in it. But of course Berger is in the way, and I'm sure they'd like to get past him, but this is not an easy track to overtake. There's only one really decent straight here, and the cars really don't get enough time to get a slipstream and really tow past. So to overtake, you've got to fight your way past.
That's what Nelson Piquet is trying to do with Berger. Point of interest, the Pirelli runners, and Berger is one of them, are on the hardest possible compound of tyre. They could well be going through this race without a pit stop. All the Goodyear runners are on the B compound, which is the middle of the three hardnesses A, B and C which are available to them. But Gerhard Berger, who's had such bad luck in the last two Grand Prix, finished 5th in Italy and out of it in Austria, notwithstanding the fact that he led both of them, is in 3rd place. Now there's Senna across the line, and there you see Berger, Piquet and Prost, 3rd, 4th and 5th in the Benetton, the Williams and the McLaren, very close.
Yes, and Piquet and Prost have got a problem with Berger because I suspect he's holding him up a little bit. But the BMW engine is very powerful, and you saw as they came down the main straight past the grandstand across the start-finish line that really Berger was pulling away from them, if anything, and that means that they're really going to have to climb over the top of him.
Now, the two Lola Fords are in 16th and 17th places, Alan Jones and Patrick Tambay. But now, on lap 6, as you look at the battle for 3rd place between Berger and Piquet, ahead of both of them are Mansell and Senna. Just behind them is Prost in 5th place. Theo Fabi is in 6th position. Keke Rosberg is 7th. Stefan Johansson is 8th. Arnoux is 9th. Alboreto is 10th. Alio is 11th. And there in the pits is Ginzani in the Osella. Derek Warwick is in 13th place. Johnny Dumfries is 14th. Alan Jones is 16th. And Martin Brundle is 18th. And there's Berger. So it's the Japanese Honda engine in the Williams that's powering the leading car. Then there is the Renault, and there is the battle for 3rd place with the BMW powered car 3rd.
Yes, and you saw the gap because Senna just went out of the picture as we came onto the pit straight then. And really, Piquet and Prost are being held up by Berger, but they've got a problem. You can see if you watch now, as we go on to the twisty part of the track, how Piquet and Prost close up on Berger. But of course, they can't really get past him there. And when we get onto the pit straight, Berger seems to pull away a little bit.
And then you see behind them, that's Berger, Piquet and Prost. The next cars you'll see together are Theo Fabi and Keke Rosberg. But this is the battle on the circuit, because Nigel Mansell is now 2.8 seconds ahead of Ayrton Senna on lap 7 out of 70, 1/10 distance, and looking very secure indeed. Senna is 5 seconds ahead of the battle that you're looking at now, and Piquet must, from his point of view, make his move, and he's doing it. You can see he's looking for an opportunity to get past all the time, and then he's got to close up on Senna and try and take him, and then he's got to try and take Mansell, who is 5 points ahead of him in the championship, and that's Ivan Capelli, the Italian Formula 3000 driver who finished 4th in the Australian Grand Prix last year, retiring the AGS, and that's the first retirement. Ivan Capelli out in the AGS, and that is on lap 8.
And there you see just how much that Berger pulls away on the straight. The BMW engine seems to be working very well indeed. And it's a real problem for Nelson Piquet now and Alain Prost later to see how they close up round the corners. But of course you can't overtake in the middle of a corner. You've got to overtake on the straight or under braking, and Keke Rosberg has got past Theo Fabi in the sister car. Now Piquet is really looking for a way round, and that looks like he's done it. Piquet has got inside Berger. So now we have to see if Piquet can close the gap on Ayrton Senna and Nigel Mansell.
And that gap is 8.6 seconds, or was, just before he passed Berger. And now you can see how much Piquet was being held up, and for that matter, how much Prost is being held up by Berger. Because look at the gap between Piquet in 3rd position now, and here's a replay of the Brazilian coming out of the slipstream of Berger's car, nipping through on the inside. Berger gives way, and now Nelson Piquet has got his foot hard down. Certainly the fastest man on the course, I would have thought, but there to prove me wrong, Nigel Mansell is 1 minute 23.04. That's still not a lap record, but there's a heavy fuel load on. The lap record is held by Niki Lauda, 1 minute 22.9. That's 117.2 miles an hour, 188.7 kilometers an hour. And Nelson Piquet will be going for that record now. And look at the gap between Mansell, there he is, red 5, Nigel Mansell in the Williams, 4 victories under his belt already, Belgium, Canada, France and Great Britain, 2 second places, 2 third places.
And Mansell is pulling away at the moment. I'm having a good look at his tyres though, because they look to be marking up just a little bit. The tread seems to be rolling. The problems were not, mainly the teams were not expecting any problem with tyres.
Well, Nigel Mansell is now on his 9th lap. We can expect him to come in probably a bit before the 30th lap to change tyres. He's supremely confident now. The terrific pressure isn't getting to him at all. There is Senna in 2nd place. There is Piquet striking sparks in 3rd place and pulling away from Prost, who's moved up to 4th ahead of Gerhard Berger. And I can tell you one particularly interesting thing, and that is that there are 4 Williams cars as Keke Rosberg in the yellow McLaren passes Gerhard Berger and goes up into 5th position. So the McLarens are starting to move up. There is Prost, and I was saying that for the first time this season there are 4 Williams cars at a Grand Prix, because previously there was only 1 spare car which Piquet had the rights to, but now Mansell's got one as well, and he's really been making good use of it during practice, and Prost is there 3rd.
Well, they said they didn't expect tyre problems, but I was just looking at Prost, and his right front tyre looks a little bit marked. And Rosberg is certainly coming up very quickly now, having disposed of the 2 Benettons. Rosberg is chasing Prost.
Lap 10, 1/7 distance. Mansell leads by 3.9 seconds. Senna is 2nd. Piquet is 3rd. Berger has slipped down because Prost is now 4th. Rosberg is now 5th. Berger is in 6th position. And the flying Finn, Keke Rosberg, with only 2 Grand Prix to go after this one, the Grand Prix in Mexico and Australia, is coming up. And there is Hub Rotengatter in the background, touring in seemingly to retire. There is the tall Dutchman, huge Rotengatter, as he is known in the pit lane, and he's retiring from yet another Grand Prix in the Zach Speed. So that's Capelli out, Rotengatter out. This is lap 11. There is the race lead. Is Nelson Piquet in 3rd position. And the gap between Piquet and Mansell, 1st and 3rd, these are the 2 who are contending for the World Championship, is 12.7 seconds. Prost in 4th place. The 2 McLarens getting very close to each other, because Keke Rosberg, as you can see, was only 1 second behind Prost and is now closer than that with Gerhard Berger. And I think it's probably a tyre problem, because the 5 compound Pirelli tyre is extremely hard. I was told in the pit lane just before the race began that there's Rotengatter touring. And that's Alan Jones. Alan Jones out of the Portuguese Grand Prix on lap 11, off the circuit. He was in 15th place, and that's another race run for the far from happy Alan Jones this year, who reckons he should have a lot more power from the Ford engine and is very worried about not being able to put up a good show in Australia. There he is, going off the circuit and spinning in front of his teammate Patrick Tambay, who therefore moves up into 15th place. There is Berger, being chased by Theo Fabi, and then the 2 Ferraris of Stefan Johansson and Michele Alboreto. And on lap 12, Mansell leads. Senna is in 2nd place. In 3rd position, it is Piquet. 4th is Prost. 5th is Rosberg. And in 6th position, it's Gerhard Berger. 7th is Theo Fabi. 8th is Stefan Johansson. 9th is Michele Alboreto. 10th is René Arnoux. 11th is Alio. And in 12th position, it's Riccardo Patrese. So I was saying a few moments ago that the Pirelli tyres are very, very hard indeed. Can certainly, we expect, last the whole race. Somebody in the pits was telling me that they would probably last to the middle of next season, but they'll certainly last this race. Whereas all the Goodyear runners who are on the B compound will certainly be coming, or are planning to come in for a pit stop. As you look at Teo Fabi being chased by Stefan Johansson and Michele Alboreto, an Italian driver in the Italian-sponsored British Benetton car with its BMW engine, being chased by the two Italian Ferraris.
And I have to say, just looking at the tyres on Prost's car, on Nelson Piquet's car, that I think that the track may be springing a surprise on them. Remember that track conditions change even from 10 o'clock this morning when they were out doing the warm-up. You look at the right front tyre of Prost's car, and it looks a little bit marked up on the tread. And certainly, he doesn't seem to be going quite as quickly as we would have expected as he went this morning. So I think the track seems to have got a little bit harder on tyres, and there may be some tyre troubles for the Goodyear runners.
Yes, Prost in fourth position. You can see how close, or you will do in a moment, when Keke Rosberg in the yellow McLaren appears in the shot. And there's about a second. There are the two McLarens, fourth and fifth. Ahead of them still Piquet, Senna and Mansell, third, second and first. And the gap between Piquet third and Mansell leading remains just over 12 seconds. Ayrton Senna is 4.5 seconds behind the Englishman. There was Mansell. Here is Senna going into turn one. That's about 145 miles an hour in fifth gear. Accelerating, and they start to drop downhill into turn two in fifth gear at about 175 now. And those numbers mean Giro 12, that's lap 12. In the lead is Nigel Mansell, number 5, followed by number 12, Ayrton Senna, and there he is, coming out of the left-hander at turn 4, and now onto the very, very fast stretch from turns 5 to 7, where they're doing about 195 miles an hour at the fastest point, going into the long, looping left-hander, turns 7 and 8. Now up the hill into turn 9, that's the second gear corner at about 100 miles an hour, accelerating up into third, 120 miles an hour, fourth, and quite a lot of runners in the pits already. Ginzani there, still in the pits, and Ayrton Senna now 4.5 seconds behind Mansell, who is most definitely controlling this race from the front. And one of the things that the Williams team were experimenting with during the warm-up this morning, and there is Mansell, was a new radio system on Mansell's race car, which enabled them to improve the communications between the pits and the driver, because, as I have said before, they literally can talk to each other. And Nigel Mansell, through this new system, will undoubtedly be getting some very reassuring messages.
Yeah, and certainly a little bit of tyre trouble for Mansell as well. If you look at that left front tyre, you can see that half of the tread is marked up. So what he will be concentrating on now is to go very easy on the tyres to try and maintain his lead, but slide the car as little as possible so as not to scuff the tyres any more than they're being so in the normal way.
As you look at the leading British driver, the second British driver is Derek Warwick in 13th place in the Brabham BMW, who is just about half a second ahead of Johnny Dumfries in 14th place. Martin Brundle is in 18th place and Jonathan Palmer is 20th. There is Alessandro Nannini, the Italian, very good, because the Minardi is not good enough for Nannini's talent, I think. And he has already been lapped by the race leader, Nigel Mansell, who's coming through now to complete his 15th lap in this 70-lap race. And you can see Senna in the background crossing the line as we wait for Nelson Piquet to appear. And here he is. I've got the stopwatch running. I'll give you the gap between Mansell and Piquet at the end of this, the 15th lap. And the answer is 13.8 seconds. Piquet is closing just a little bit on Nigel Mansell. That diagram gives you the gap between Mansell, number 5 on the left, Senna, number 12 on the right, and you can see exactly what it is. 5.226 seconds, and that's very nice. Thank you for Nigel Mansell.
Yes, but both Senna and Piquet have closed very slightly the gap to Mansell. So we'll be looking at his tyres. I suspect he's in a little bit of tyre trouble, but it is possible to clean the tyres up and take the load off them if you're very careful with them. You have to slow down a bit, you have to not slide the car as much as normal, and really look after them, and that, I'm sure, is what Nigel will be concentrating on at the moment.
Out of the race on lap 16, Ivan Capelli in the AGS, Hub Rotengatter, who went out with transmission problems, Alan Jones, who you saw spin off in front of his teammate Patrick Tambay, and so now on lap 16, it's Mansell, Senna, Piquet, Prost, Rosberg, and there's Senna, who has lapped Nannini. Here is Piquet. Behind him in the red and white car, Prost. Behind him in the yellow and white car is Rosberg in 5th position. And Nelson Piquet seemingly can do nothing about Nigel Mansell. I had it suggested to me before this race began that psychologically Piquet was starting to crumble a bit, which will surprise a lot of people because he is a great sandbagger who doesn't show his hand until the last possible moment. He's got 2 World Championships behind him, and the supposition was that Nigel Mansell would be the man most likely to crack with Piquet against him, but that has been far from the case, to put it mildly. Mansell is totally relaxed, and now Prost, 4th, is catching Piquet.
Yes, very much. I'd have to agree with that. If anybody has been psyched out, it's been Nelson Piquet, and there we see a fastest lap and a lap record, I think, for Nigel Mansell. But they're going to get quicker and quicker as the fuel load goes down. But certainly Piquet seems to have been the member of the Williams team who has struggled psychologically this year.
Oh, there is Prost in 4th position. And Prost has only, you look ahead and you'll see Piquet. Well, there's Piquet, here is Senna, and this is the end of the 17th lap. There's still a long, long way to go. Reliability, as ever in any Grand Prix, is of paramount importance. Senna has had problems in the recent past. He failed to score in the Italian Grand Prix, he failed to score in the Austrian Grand Prix, he finished 2nd in Hungary, of course, and in Germany. But Ayrton Senna, number 12 there, has had 5 failures to finish, which has paradoxically, in a way, helped him in the championship, because it means he can at least score all the points from now on to get his best 11 out of 16 scores. But he desperately needs those 9 points. He's in 4th place in the championship, and so far the Portuguese Grand Prix has been very much Nigel Mansell's race. Well, now I wonder how if Senna fails to win this race, let's assume that Senna won it, he would have 9 points to add to the 48 he already has, making 57. So Senna really has got to win this race in order to keep his World Championship hopes alive, and there's the man who's doing his darndest to stop it happening. His ex-teammate Nigel Mansell, originally from Hall Green in Birmingham, now Port Erin in the Isle of Man. This is his 87th Grand Prix, 6 wins behind him, 130 World Championship points. The man who came up from kart racing to Formula Ford, to Formula 3, to Formula 2, then became the protege of Colin Chapman, left the Lotus team last year, and he has just lapped Jonathan Palmer, who is in 20th place, and he's on lap 19. Will the tyre changes make a difference? Well, they could well do, but we expect a minimum of another 10 laps before anybody starts to come in to change tyres. There are the 2 Tyrrells together. You saw them momentarily. Martin Brundle, who is 18th, and Philippe Streff, who is in 19th place. And Mansell is really going through the field like a hot knife through butter, looking beautifully smooth.
Yes, he won't like having 3 back markers in front of him, because being the first car through, the drivers in the slower cars don't necessarily see him coming. Once Mansell goes past, they're forewarned, and they'll expect to see Senna coming through, so it's a disadvantage for Mansell. There we are back in the cockpit of the Arrows. So taking the line through the corner, swinging in to make as straight a line as possible, and then swinging out wide, putting onto full power. You can see the boost gauge is on half power now, off the throttle. And up goes the needle, whoops, and that looks very nasty.
It's Martin Brundle out again, the unfortunate Englishman who has already had to retire from 6 Grand Prix in 1986. He's desperately looking for a good finish. He was in 18th place, and he's naturally wanting to catch the eyes of team managers for 1987. And that's his Portuguese Grand Prix run to join the other retirees, Alan Jones, Hugh Grotengata, Ivan Capelli, and now Ghinzani has officially retired. You saw him in the pits for a long time, so that's 5 of the 27 starters out. 27 because a special dispensation was made to allow the little Canadian Alan Berg in the second Osella to take part in the Portuguese Grand Prix in the same way that Alex Caffey was allowed to take part in the Italian Grand Prix. And now Senna was actually gaining slightly on Nigel Mansell, and let's see if he's doing it again, because Mansell is going through the back markers, and yes, Senna is now less than 4 seconds behind Nigel Mansell, and it was over 6 seconds. So either Mansell is slowing, or Senna is speeding up, or Senna, and there he is in second place, is dealing with the traffic better than Mansell. We'll wait and see. There's confirmation.
Yes, it's because Mansell, of course, is the first signal to the traffic that they're being lapped, and they're expecting Senna. And also, you saw Senna braking at the end of the main straight then, and really charging. He's throwing everything into this and attacking.
But he mustn't attack too much or throw too much in, because although this isn't going to be a race where fuel is a desperate problem, they start this race with 195 litres of fuel and no more, but it can be a problem. And the Renault engine is not as fuel efficient as the Honda engine, which is powering Mansell's car in front of Ayrton Senna. So Ayrton Senna is touching that boost button on the steering wheel to give him an extra 0.2 bar and a little more acceleration as he goes past the midfield men. He's on lap 21 now. The sun has broken right through. What was a dull day is now a bright day. Here is Mansell. I'll give you the gap again. Mansell goes across the line. Senna has now got the problem, and it's 4.7 seconds the gap.
Yes, and in the background you see coming up into our main picture now Piquet and Prost, and with all this traffic they have got a little bit closer to Nigel Mansell. So at the moment the leading 4 or even 5 cars with Keke Rosberg behind are closing up to each other a little bit.
And on lap 22, Mansell leads Senna by about 4 seconds. In third position, it is Nelson Piquet. In fourth place, it is Alain Prost. Fifth is Keke Rosberg. Sixth, and in the points, is Stefan Johansson in the Ferrari. Seventh is Theo Fabi. Eighth is his teammate Berger, who slipped right back from the third place he had earlier on. Then in eighth position, it is Michele Alboreto. Derek Warwick is 13th. Johnny Dumfries is 14th. Jonathan Palmer is 19th, and Martin Brundle has retired as Christian Danner. I wish they'd let us see what that camera is showing on Danner's car, because he's just been passed by the race by Nelson Piquet, who is in third position, and there's Prost also ahead of Danner now. Berger is behind Theo Fabi, his teammate, and Berger is slowing down. Danner, with the camera car that we're not being allowed to see the pictures of, is in 20th place. Now, you've just seen Mansell go across the line. There is Senna. Now look for Nelson Piquet. He's behind Felix Streff, and the gap between, in second position, Senna and Piquet is 7 seconds.
Yes, and that will anger Piquet that Streff didn't let him go then. So he's going to have to fight his way past. Prost, who's right up behind Piquet, will be looking for a way past Piquet now. He'll be looking for an opportunity amongst the back markers, because that very often presents the opportunity if a back marker holds you up at all for the car in front. And Prost will now be beginning to think about trying to make his move.
You are looking at this very moment at something that could even be deciding the World Championship. Because if Piquet slips down, there you see 5 Mansell in the lead, 12 Senna second, 6 Piquet third, 1 Prost fourth, 2 Rosberg is in 5th position, followed by Stefan Johansson. And with Prost getting very close to and soon about to swarm all round the back of Nelson Piquet's Williams Honda, there it is on the right of your picture, if Piquet loses that 3rd position and goes down to 4th, there'll be a big points gap increasing between himself and Nigel Mansell with 2 races to go in the World Championship. And the last world champion we had for Britain is right here, James Hunt.
Now you're embarrassing me. Well, Mansell's certainly looking very confident and cool. It's about time we had another one from Britain, and he certainly looks equipped to do the job. He's got himself his little bit of a cushion, some 6 seconds in front of Senna, and he can now afford to look after his car and concentrate on finishing the race, which, of course, is the most vital thing.
Frank Williams, still sadly in his wheelchair, is here in Portugal to see this race. Patrick Head, the designer of the FW11, Frank Williams FW11 Williams Honda that you're looking at now of Nelson Piquet, is the race engineer for Nigel Mansell. Frank Durney is the race engineer for Piquet, and they will be talking over the intercom calmly and dispassionately, although some of the comments they get back from the drivers are far from calm and dispassionate. There is Piquet. Piquet third, ahead of him, and the gap now between Senna and Piquet is still 7 seconds, but the gap between Senna and Mansell has increased. In other words, Mansell is pulling away, it's 6 seconds. Here's Piquet in 3rd position, behind him the Minardi being caught and lapped by Alain Prost. And I am very interested in this because it is quite clear that if things go on as they are and the cars stay reliable, the Williams Hondas have again got the legs of the McLaren tags. Latest news on 1987 as far as engines for the McLarens are concerned is that the proposed deal between McLaren and Renault is thought, and I emphasize thought, to have collapsed. And it is being suggested that McLaren are going to go on with the tag engines next year, in which case, where will Renault go, if anywhere?
Yes, but one of the problems on the subject of engines for next year, we've got a row brewing between FISA, the governing body, and FOCA, the Formula One Constructors Association, because they are arguing about how they're going to restrict the power of the engines next year. The teams who have spent millions of pounds literally on developing the engines for a fuel formula, for a fuel restricted formula that they didn't want in the first place, want to keep that and cut down the amount of fuel next year, so at least they can keep the technology that they've worked so hard on and spent so much money on, while FISA are pushing for a pop-off valve to restrict the pressure that the turbocharger can generate, and that the teams are very unhappy about this. And at the moment we have a bit of a Mexican standoff. I have to say that I think, for my part, that I support the teams very much. They've spent all the money, they've done a lot of work, they've taken the formula that they didn't want in the first place, and for FISA to arbitrarily change it now, I think would be a mistake.
Lap 26, race order. Mansell leads. There is the second man, Senna. 3rd is still Piquet. 4th is still Prost, but 5th, Rosberg is dropping back. He was only a second behind Prost, but he's now 5 seconds behind him, which means to say that Stefan Johansson in the Ferrari, in 6th place, has got a chance soon, perhaps, to take Keke Rosberg in 5th position. It's still Teo Fabi 7th, Alboreto 8th, Bergen 9th, Arnoux 10th, Patrese 11th, Alio is in 12th position, Derek Warwick is still 13th, and Dumfries 14th. Jonathan Palmer is still in 19th place, and there is the brilliant Brazilian Ayrton Senna, who next year will be driving a Lotus Honda, and here is the leader. Now, there's the gap. Mansell crosses the line, and now Senna crosses the line, 5.5 seconds, virtually no change. Nigel Mansell is driving a quite immaculate race. Cool, calm, totally collected. So, let's look at the race leader. 4 Grand Prix behind him already this year. Wins in Belgium, in Canada, in France, and then that tremendously emotional win at Brands Hatch, the British Grand Prix. Is this going to be number 5? Speeds at this Eştoril circuit, which is hosting a Grand Prix for the World Championship for the 3rd time in successive years. There was a long gap between that and the previous Portuguese Grand Prix. They were held in 1958, 59 and 60 at the Oporto and Lisbon circuits. And then there was a 24-year gap before Alain Prost came back to win in 1984 and lose the World Championship to Niki Lauda by only half a point. Then last year we had that terribly wet race, and just to explain the little dots here, as you can see on the left of your picture, the blue one is Nigel Mansell and the white one on the right is Stefan Johansson, who's in 6th place. So you can see that there's good 3/4 of a lap between Nigel Mansell in the lead and Stefan Johansson, shown to you by this extremely effective graphic. Mansell going through and taking Patrick Tambay in the 4-towered Haas Lola, and Tambay, ex-Ferrari, ex-Renault, ex-virtually everything else as well, is in 15th place. So now Nigel Mansell, there he is, has lapped everybody up to, so far, Johnny Dumfries, who is 14th, chasing Derek Warwick in 13th place. And Derek Warwick has had, to put it mildly, another very fraught Portuguese Grand Prix meeting, because he's been blowing BMW engines like they were going out of fashion. Which in a way they are, I suppose, with the question of whether or not they're going to be in Grand Prix racing next year.
Yes, and this argument that I was mentioning just a few minutes ago between FISA and FOCA about engine regulations is making things very difficult for the teams to get sorted out with what they're going to do with engines next year. McLaren are having to sit on the fence at the moment until they know what is happening with engines. And it's very important for the health of the business that they get this argument settled as quickly as possible, and everybody knows what they've got to do to get ready for next year. Here we see Ayrton Senna just lapping one of the arrows, pulling out on the straight, no problem at all, and out breaks him into the corner at turn 1 at the end of the straight.
5 men have now completed 28 laps, with Mansell leading Senna by 6.3 seconds. Senna 6 seconds ahead of Piquet. Piquet 3 seconds ahead of Prost, who is 4th. Prost is 10 seconds ahead of Rosberg, who is in 5th place. And Rosberg is 12 seconds ahead of Johansson, who is 6th. Barbie 7th, Alboreto 8th, Berger 9th. And Dumfries has been lapped. Everybody's been lapped up to Dumfries, who's 14th, and as you see there, Piquet is now the fastest man on the circuit. He's broken the lap record, which Nigel Mansell set up, breaking Niki Lauda's 1 minute 22.9 with a 1 minute 22.6. So that means they're lapping at about 117.5 or so miles an hour, compared with the 125 miles an hour that the pole position time represented. Ayrton Senna, here he is, over the line, and the gap between Senna in 2nd place, who's now into turn 1, and Nelson Piquet, into the pits comes Warwick, is 4.4 seconds. Good pit stop, let's see. And you see the turbo flaming away at the back of the car. That's a good stop. Anything approaching or just over 8 seconds is a good one. And so Derek Warwick, the first tyre change to take on a new set of Pirellis, and that's significant because Derek Warwick started on the 5 compound, which is the very hard one, and I wouldn't have been at all surprised if in 14th place he hadn't stayed out for the whole race, but that was not to be. And meantime, one of the Ferraris is coming. There's Alboreto coming into the pits to take his new set of Goodyears on, watch the digital count out. So Alboreto in 8th position. That was a good pit stop. Clears the pits, races down the full length of the pit lane. It won't be very long now before we can hopefully see this superlatively good Williams pit work. They're famed for it, because Nigel Mansell is now on his 30th lap out of 70, approaching therefore half distance, and they come in usually before half distance to take on a new set of boots. And here is René Arnoux in 10th position. We are now at the crucial point of the Portuguese Grand Prix. And that Streff out, what a dreadful race for Ken Tyrrell, because Streff is out, and there is Piquet in the pits in 3rd position. That is a fantastic pit stop. It's actually a bit quicker, I think, than the 7.9 seconds shown there. And Nelson Piquet goes through.
Yes, and he'll want to get away down to the first corner before those others catch him up, because he doesn't want to get behind them. He can afford to hold them up, but that was a tremendous pit stop by the Williams team once again.
Great stuff, full of excitement. Lap 31, Mansell leads, and it's still Senna in 2nd place. Piquet into the pits to change his tyres, which means to say that Prost has now moved up into 3rd position. Piquet 4th, Rosberg 5th. Johansson 6th, and then the 2 Benettons, 7th and 8th, Fabi and Berger. And in the pits there, Alessandro Nannini in the Motori Moderni powered Minardi. Unfortunately, the Motori is not Moderni enough, because it's not able to keep up with the Hondas and the TAG powered cars, but it's a good effort. Now, Nigel Mansell may well be coming into the pits this lap. Senna is in the pits. I can see Ayrton Senna coming into the pits now. What? And he's in 2nd position. 7.9 seconds was Piquet's time. The Lotus team have been very, very good in recent races, but they're not as good as the Williams team. They've lost 3 seconds there to Piquet, well, 2 seconds. And with Patrick Tambay's now coming into the pits there on lap 32. It's Mansell leading, Prost 2nd now, Senna 3rd now, Piquet 4th now, Johansson 5th now, and Fabi 6th. And watch Mansell for a pit stop.
Yes, they'll probably bring him in 2 laps after Piquet's stop. They'll give him 1 lap to make sure they cleared Piquet of the pits. They don't want 2 cars in at once, the team, and then they'll give him the shout. Absolutely vital stage of the race, and although the Lotus stop's a little bit slow, it was still a very good stop. So far we've had no problems. The team's very efficient at getting the stops done, and they'd rather do it a little bit more slowly to be sure to get everything right than make a mistake and hurry the stop. And Mansell goes past this time.
To take Philippe Alliot, who is in 12th position, and we talk, of course, in a very blasé fashion about 10 seconds not being a very good pit stop to change 4 wheels and tyres. Of course, it's fantastic, but anything quicker than that is almost unbelievable, and that's what they're doing these days. And here's Prost into the pits. Alain Prost in 2nd place comes into the pits at the end of his 32nd lap out of 70. That's good, 8.7 seconds, and Prost needs some luck. He failed to score in Italy after winning in Austria, 3rd in the championship.
And Prost has got out just in front of Senna, but remember that Prost will be on cold tyres. So very important for Prost, if he can just fend Senna off for a lap, that will move him up a place, courtesy of a tremendous pit stop by the McLaren team.
And now 33 laps have completed. Mansell out there has still not been in. He is leading. Prost has been into the pits is 2nd, just ahead of Senna, who has also changed his tyre. Piquet is 4th, has changed. Johansson is 5th and Fabi is 6th. Is Mansell coming in this lap?
And just around the back of the circuit, we can't see it, but Senna is attacking Prost, and Nigel Mansell now coming into the pits. So Mansell making his stop.
Now, Nelson Piquet's time was 7.9 seconds. This is probably the most important pit stop of the race. Certainly for Nigel Mansell it is, of course. And the Williams team stopped. Now, but I've got the stopwatch running, and I'm just about agreeing with the digital. Go! 8.41 seconds. and that was just about half a second slower than Nelson Piquet's time. Absolutely nothing to worry about, because Nigel Mansell still retains his lead, goes into the 34th lap out of 70, still leading the Portuguese Grand Prix, as he has done since the lights turned to green and he went into turn 1 on lap 1. Uphill into turn 4, second gear, 100 miles an hour. Turn 5, now onto the very fast turn 6, and Johansson in 5th position clears his pits with a new set of Goodyears on, and after 33 laps now, it's Mansell leading, Senna second, Prost third, Piquet fourth, Johansson 5th, Rosberg 6th, Farby 7th, Berger 8th, Alboreto 9th. And Mansell has lapped everybody up to 13th position, and the 13th place is held by Johnny Dumfries. A really gripping race, and Mansell now on his way to his 5th Grand Prix win of 1986, to add 9 points to the 61 that he has. Everybody in Britain will be hoping, I'm sure. And if he does, what a fantastic way to get his 11th score before he has to start discarding World Championship points at Mexico and Australia, the last 2 races of the year.
Yes, and the exchange of pit stops amongst the leaders has actually consolidated Nigel Mansell's lead a little bit, and he really looks quite comfortable in charge. And there is Senna, who has got past Prost.
And therefore the order is Mansell is leading, Senna is second, Piquet is third, and Prost is fourth, and you're looking at the battle between Senna and Piquet for second place.
Yes, that's right, Piquet's come past as well, and Piquet is now beginning to look as if he's challenging hard.
And just behind them you see Alain Prost, so second, third, fourth, all having changed their tyres on lap 35, half distance, with the fuel load lightening, with new tyres, now well up to race temperature. They have, of course, had them heated in their special electric blankets in the pits, which get them up to race temperature. And now, second, Senna, third, Piquet, fourth, Prost, and they are 14 seconds ahead of, in 5th place, Keke Rosberg, with Farby 6th, Berger 7th, Johansson 8th, Alboreto 9th, Arnoux 10th, Alio 11th, Dumfries is now 12th, Patrese is 13th, and everybody under 14th place has yet to be lapped by Nigel Mansell, as Patrese clears the pits, and second, third and fourth, Senna, Piquet and Prost come down to complete their 35th lap.
And this group is some 11.5 seconds behind Nigel Mansell, which I think he would find a reasonably comfortable lead in such a hot race as this. The 4 main World Championship contenders all fighting it out. By some 11.5 seconds in this furious battle for second, third and fourth. You see Senna there, Nelson Piquet behind him, and Prost right behind him. I'm not going to give him much room to relax.
Now that's Riccardo Patrese in the bulky-looking Brabham BMW, and Senna's taken his chance and got past, and now Piquet does the same thing. Prost has got to get past the Italian in the Brabham BMW, and that's caused Prost to lose touch with the battle for second and third that you're looking at going on between Senna, and there is the Lotus of Johnny Dumfries, number 11, in the pits for its tyre change, with Dumfries in 12th position and yet to be lapped, although he's not far off it now. Indeed, he's just going to be as he comes out of the pits. So that means to say that everybody up to 11th place has been lapped. There's Senna, second, lap 37. Mansell is 10.9 seconds ahead.
Yes, they've closed very slightly, and Nelson Piquet is climbing all over the back of Senna's car. And it's very important to him for his World Championship passes to be able to get past Senna and set about chasing his teammate Nigel Mansell. Mansell, for his part, will be quite happy that Senna is between them. going to be easy. This is not an easy circuit on which to overtake. And Piquet needs to get past soon.
That fact that the Eştoril circuit is not an easy one on which to overtake is demonstrated by the fact that Prost has still not got past Patrese, and that's very significant indeed, because Prost in 4th place is dropping back now all the time. There's Patrese, and Prost has still not got past him.
Yes, and that's out of order by Patrese, which is something he's quite good at, because Prost is lapping him, and really the onus is on him to move over and make some space and help Prost to get past.
Lap 38, Mansell 11.7 seconds ahead of Senna. There is Senna with the 3rd place man Nelson Piquet tucked up right behind him. And in 4th position, it's still Alain Prost with Keke Rosberg some 12 seconds behind the Frenchman in 5th position. And then in 6th place, it's Berger, followed by 7th place Barbie, 8th Johansson, 9th is Alboreto, 10th is Arnoux, and Mansell is carving great lumps of the lap record, 1 minute 21.85, 118.8 miles an hour, shows you how relaxed Mansell must be, as now his fuel load is lightening, and the new tyres are giving him excellent grip. He's consolidating his lead by putting in a crushing burst of speed to demoralise the opposition, and Senna has opened up a bit of a gap in 2nd place between himself and Piquet 3rd, and we are now on lap 38.
Yeah, and that lap record has taken Mansell just a little bit further away from this battle for 2nd place, and Piquet will be pretty frustrated at the moment. It's absolutely vital that he can get past Senna if he has to stand any chance of chasing his teammate Nigel Mansell.
Let's look at this very closely, because this is Piquet's chance. This is where Piquet could dodge out before turn 1. No, he's not close enough. Senna may have given the boost button a touch there to ease away, but it looks to me as though Piquet has got the momentum as they come down into the section which then leads uphill into the left-hander of turn 4, which is about 100 miles an hour in 2nd gear. There's Alain Prost, who has now got ahead of Riccardo Patrese and is setting about, and looks as though it's working to close the gap rapidly between himself and 2nd. Yellow helmet Ayrton Senna, and 3rd in the red and white helmet Nelson Piquet. So it's Williams leading, Lotus 2nd, Williams 3rd, McLaren in 4th place, McLaren in 5th place, that's Keke Rosberg, and in 6th position it's still Gerhard Berger in the Benetton BMW.
The worst problem, of course, for Nelson Piquet is that the correct tactics for Senna is to concentrate on driving very smoothly and cleanly and making no mistakes, and not to hurry too much, because that way you don't make any mistakes, and that way you're very difficult to overtake. The overtaking opportunity that he could give to Piquet, the most obvious one is if he makes a little error by trying too hard. So he will be concentrating on driving slowly and smoothly rather than quickly. Piquet is getting close enough to have a look, but not quite in the braking area.
Superb Grand Prix driving between two superb Brazilians, but the even more superb at the present moment Englishman, Nigel Mansell, comfortably ahead, now 14 seconds.
Piquet, of course, will be a little bit careful about the way he goes past Senna. He, I'm sure, will be remembering the Hungarian Grand Prix in Budapest when they were battling for the lead, and Senna gave him a couple of naughty little carve-ups, really, that were a bit out of order and moved over on him. So that, of course, works as a disadvantage for Piquet, because he's going to be a little more circumspect than he would otherwise have to be with another driver.
Yes, Senna is really the hard man of Grand Prix racing now. You are wise not to tangle with him. He's very tough indeed. 26 years old. He's actually the youngest by far top driver in the race, and he's only a little older than Alan Berg, who's 25 years old, for the youngest age in the race. So there is Jonathan Palmer coming towards us in the 18th place to Zach Speed, Senna dodges out from behind him at the very last moment. That was a cute move because, and Prost is catching Piquet for third position, and Senna was extremely intelligent, as is his wont there, because he left the passing of Jonathan Palmer until the very last moment, which meant to say that Piquet had to stay behind the Englishman in the Zach speed, and he's still there as they went through this series of bends, turns 3, 4 and 5. And now Piquet, as they come up to turn 6 with Prost catching him and Alliot retiring. There is Alliot, Filipe Alliot, retiring from the Portuguese Grand Prix, and Piquet is away. But not enough. And Senna is still second. This is lap 41. It's a 70-lap race. Nigel Mansell is still leading. Patrick Tambay is coming into the pits in the Ford-powered Haas Lola. His teammate Alan Jones, the Australian, having retired long, long ago when he spun off. And there's Senna. Now, there's Senna. Where's Piquet? There he is. And there's Prost. Second, third and fourth, virtually together again. I'll give you the gap between second Senna and fourth Prost. And it is 2.4 seconds. And they are 12.5 seconds behind Mansell.
They're coming up to that René Arnoux, and he lets them go.
Senna goes through. It's left. Big crowd reaction in front of me for something I can't see. Keke Rosberg, I think, has gone out of the race. Yes, I think Keke Rosberg's blown his engine. Well, I'll have to wait for confirmation on that. That's what it looked like to us, because the crowd in front of me has suddenly gone wild, standing up, looking down the road. But we'll tell you soon, because all attention at the present moment is on what you're looking at now on lap 42 out of 70, with Nigel Mansell now 12.5 seconds ahead of this battle for second place between Senna there, Piquet there, and Prost there, second, third, fourth.
Yes, the battle behind is fast and furious, and they're holding very much station round about a 12.5 second gap with Nigel Mansell. But I get the feeling that Nelson Piquet has got a little bit more speed in him than Senna's allowing him to use. So, Piquet still not close enough. I'm sure he's hitting that boost button to get a little bit more down the straight, but Senna is responding with the same trick. They can be fairly free with playing around with the boost in this race, because fuel consumption is not a serious problem for them. And I think this battle may just be beginning to turn on Ayrton Senna's tyres. They looked a little bit marked up then, and Piquet still climbing all over the back of him.
And I'm waiting to see who comes through in fifth position, and it's Berger, followed by Johansson now in sixth position. So that was Keke Rosberg out of the last but two Grand Prix in his long and superb career, in at the time fifth position, and now in fifth place it is Gerhard Berger, followed by Stefan Johansson, back in the points as he was in Italy and Austria. Michele Alboreto is in seventh place, René Arnoux is eighth, Barbie is ninth, Patrese is 10th and has been lapped. So Mansell has lapped everybody up to ninth position, and he is on his 44th lap, leading by an increasing amount. It's now nearly 14 seconds, as coming down towards us behind Christian Danner in the Arrows and De Cesaris in the Minardi. There is the Italian in the Minardi. Alessandria, ever-expanding car on the corners. De Cesaris, who is still ahead of Senna, and Danner is still ahead of Piquet. Piquet is being held up a bit, and De Cesaris has still not been caught and passed by Senna, whereas Piquet has got past the lanky, amiable German Christian Danner, and so for that matter has Alain Prost. You're really looking at some excellent traffic manoeuvres. Senna now takes De Cesaris in second position, Senna of course that is, and he's now nearly 14 seconds behind Nigel Mansell. As you look at the legs of the Benetton mechanics, waiting for one of their men to come in, and there in the background, number 8 is the parked, broken and retired Brabham of Derek Warwick. So out of the Portuguese Grand Prix, as you look at the second place man, Ayrton Senna, on lap 44 out of 70, have gone Capelli, Rotengatter, Alan Jones, Martin Brundle, Ginzani, Philippe Streff, Philippe Alliot, Keke Rosberg and Derek Warwick. And Piquet is now only taking De Cesaris, and right up behind him is Alain Prost. So Prost can get past the Italian, and I think he's going to, and indeed he is now and has done so. He has really benefited. Piquet putting his 2 left wheels onto the dust verge over the curve now. The gap between himself and Ayrton Senna is about half a second, a little more. And the gap between himself and Prost, there is Senna second, Piquet third, Prost fourth.
So wenig Erfolg Keke Rosberg in seiner ersten und einzigen McLaren-Saison hat, so zügig schreitet sein Hausbau in Österreich voran. In 3 Wochen wurde das Dach gebaut und zu Weihnachten möchte er unbedingt einziehen. Rausgerutscht ist Stefan Johansson auf der Jagd nach Gerhard Berger. Sie haben es gesehen, eine Zehntelsekunde lag er nur noch hinter dem Österreicher zurück, aber das war eine Kollision. Gerhard Berger und Stefan Johansson kollidiert, also das ist ein unglaublicher Zufall, würde ich sagen. Der Fahrer, der neu zu Ferrari kommt, und der Fahrer, der von Ferrari weg muss, haben also miteinander kollidiert. Gerhard Berger und Stefan Johansson im Kampf um den 5. und 6. Platz. Passiert ist nichts. Sie haben es gesehen, die beiden Fahrzeuge im Sand. Aber wieder einmal ist ein Grand Prix für Gerhard Berger vorzeitig zu Ende. Sind nebeneinander in diese erste Kurve getaucht. Johansson wollte überholen, wo man vielleicht nicht unbedingt überholen kann. Ein paar Engländer haben das ganz genau beobachtet, wie sie mir gerade über Funk mitteilen konnten. Seite an Seite, Rad an Rad nebeneinander sind sie auf die erste Kurve zugesteuert und haben sich gegenseitig angeblickt. Die Frage war, wer geht früher vom Gas und wer bremst etwas früher in dieser sehr holprigen Bremszone für die erste Kurve. 4. Gang, 230 Kilometer pro Stunde, und offenbar hat keiner von beiden nachgegeben. Kollision also Berger, Johansson. Damit rückt Michele Alboreto auf den 5. Platz auf, und für Gerhard Berger heute nach dem Zwischenhoch von Monza mit dem 5. Platz trotz aller Widerwärtigkeiten wieder keine Punkte. Andrea De Cesaris geht auch schon zu Fuß. Er glaubt, dass das Minardi-Team mit 2 Fahrern hoffnungslos überfordert ist. Warum ist Philippe Alliot, der so still und heimlich in der Ligier-Box verschwunden ist, wirklich ausgefallen? Ich bekomme es gerade gemeldet. Motorschaden und keine Möglichkeit, klarerweise weiterzufahren. Ich kann mich nicht erinnern, wann Gerhard Berger zuletzt eine Kollision gehabt hat. Diese erste Kurve von Eschtoril ist allerdings für ihn ein bisschen eine Unglückskurve. Vor 2 Jahren, letztes Grand Prix-Rennen in Europa, während des Qualifikationstrainings hat Gerhard Berger damals Keke Rosberg den Finnen übersehen. Rosberg hat sich von der Strecke gedreht, hat die Entschuldigung von Berger aber sofort akzeptiert und gesagt, macht überhaupt nichts, kann passieren. Berger war recht zerknirscht, weil er ja auch eher gewusst hat, für einen neuen Mann in der Formel 1 ist es das Wichtigste überhaupt, dass man den Schnelleren weder im Weg herumsteht, noch sie in ihren schnellen Trainingsrunden irritiert, sondern möglichst brav und anständig sofort über Platz war. Hat Kampf in Monza ja eindeutig oder ganz demonstrativ immer wieder gezeigt. Und was ist ein Jahr später passiert, 1985 in Eschtoril, das erste Europarennen Wieder sind Berger und Rosberg im Training aneinander geraten. Wieder hat Berger nicht geschaut und wieder hat sich Keke Rosberg von der Strecke gedreht und bei 250 einen Unfall gehabt. Berger war damit wirklich recht zerknirscht, aber Rosberg war immer noch sportlich und hat gesagt, na, macht auch diesmal nichts. Und darum auch, als die beiden hierher kamen, die Frage von Berger an Rosberg, was werden wir wohl diesmal in der ersten Kurve machen? Und die Antwort hätte wohl keiner gewusst, dass es zu einer Kollision Berger-Johansson kommen würde. 24 Runden noch zu fahren. Menzel führt 14 Sekunden vor diesem Trio Senna, Piquet und Prost. 5. Alboreto mit fast einer Minute Rückstand. So, Angriff von Piquet auf Senna. Ja, und was passiert jetzt in der ersten Kurve? Dort, wo Berger und Johansson kollidiert sind. Johansson ist übrigens wieder weitergefahren nach seinem Dreher im Sand, hat den Wagen, den Ferrari, wieder flott bekommen. Berger ist ausgestiegen und konnte nicht mehr weiterfahren und Senna bleibt vorn. Ja, aber wir hätten gern gewusst, warum er wirklich vorne geblieben ist. Ob er so hart gefahren ist oder ob Piquet doch ein bisschen zurückgesteckt hat. Aber Piquet weiß, es sind ja nur noch 21 Runden zu fahren. Er musste sehr, sehr bald an Senna vorbei, um den Rückstand auf seinen Teamrivalen, auf Nigel Mansell, noch zu verringern. Piquet heute in einer ähnlichen Situation wie Niki Lauda vor 2 Jahren. Piquet rennt gegen Senna an wie gegen eine Mauer. Das gleiche ist ja Niki Lauda vor 2 Jahren passiert gegen Stefan Johansson. Ich glaube 30 Runden lang hat sich förmlich festgebissen an dem Tolman. Grund war allerdings, dass bei Niki Lauda ein Turbodefekt war, von dem man erst nach dem Rennen wissen konnte. Eins der Rennen, in denen die Fahrer heute sehr viel denken müssen. Die Reifenwechsel mussten genau getimt werden. Jetzt muss man Position, Leistung, Möglichkeiten, Spritverbrauch, das alles miteinander abwiegen und es ist eines der Rennen oder einer der Nachmittage in der Formel 1, von denen Piquet immer wieder sagt, da habe ich fürchterliches Kopfweh bekommen. Sie haben den geparkten Benetton von Gerhard Berger in der ersten Kurve gesehen, 21 Runden noch. Menzel 14 Sekunden vorne. Dann Senna, Piquet, Prost. Dann die beiden Ferrari, Alboreto vor Johansson, Theo Fabi mit einer Runde Rückstand. 7., 8. ist Arnoux, 9. Dumfries, 10. Patrese, 11. Butzen, 12. Danner, 13. Palmer, 14. Nannini. Noch im Rennen ist Patrick Tambay mit 7 Runden Rückstand. Man hat die Bremsen entlüftet. Ellenberg passt jetzt hoffentlich genau auf. Jawohl. Senna, Piquet und Prost. 50. Runde. Langsam brennt für Piquet ein bisschen die Zeit unter den Fingernägeln, muss man fast sagen, denn jetzt spürt auch Piquet, wenn er nicht bald an Senna vorbei ist, dann wird Nigel Mansell diesen Grand-Prix gewinnen. René Arnoux, 8. Einer der vielen kupplungsgeschädigten Fahrer von Monza, hat so lange die Gänge durchgerissen, ohne die Kupplung zu betätigen, die kaputt war, bis das Getriebe K.O. war. Prost. Man hat von dem Wundermotor bei Prost und McLaren eigentlich halt ein bisschen mehr erwartet, vor allem nach der Bondenbestzeit im Aufwärmtraining. McLaren hat nicht nur einen neuen Motor hier fürs Qualifikationstraining, sondern einige neue Motoren. Ich bin sicher, auch Rosberg hat heute einen gehabt, solange er im Rennen war. Hat dieser Motor allerdings auch nicht ganz das gehalten, was man sich vielleicht erwartet hat. Und dann Rosberg wegen Motorschadens ausgeschieden. Aufpassen, Stefan Johansson, dahinter ist der führende Nigel Mansell. Gut gemacht, schnellste Runde, Mansell 1:21,3. Ich darf es Ihnen wiederholen, Niki Lauda hat heute in Eschtoril seinen letzten gültigen Formel 1 Rundenrekord verloren. Aufgestellt hier vor 2 Jahren in seiner hinreißenden Verfolgungsjagd auf den führenden Alain Prost. 15,9 zwischen Mansell und Senna. 52. Runde. Ja, jetzt müsste Senna oder Piquet oder Prost oder wer immer schon fast 1 Sekunde pro Runde aufholen, um noch gewinnen zu können. Schaut aber ganz nach einem neuen Sieger im Grand-Prix von Portugal aus. Vor 2 Jahren Alain Prost, voriges Jahr bei Regen Ayrton Senna. Sehr schön zeigt uns das portugiesische Fernsehen jetzt den Vorsprung von Mansell auf diese Dreiergruppe. Muss schon frustrierend für Senna sein, wenn in dem Augenblick, in dem er in die Zielgerade einbiegt, der Führende bereits ums Eck verschwindet. Sehr kampfstark Nigel Mansell, sehr viel Power hat dieser Engländer. Hat in England, soviel ich weiß, nicht dieses Heldenimage, das James Hunt aufgebaut hat für sich, sondern er ist eher das Idol der mittleren Klasse in England, einer von ihnen, der es mit sehr viel Arbeit, sehr viel Einsatz und sehr viel Härte geschafft hat, nach oben zu kommen. Als wir über seine Titelchancen gesprochen haben, hat mir Mansell vorgerechnet, gut, natürlich, ich bekomme Streichresultate, aber Piquet muss dafür in jedem Rennen durchkommen und versuchen zu gewinnen und 3-mal hintereinander jetzt noch anzukommen. Das ist nach der Wahrscheinlichkeit her gar nicht so leicht und eher unsicher. Sekunden der Vorsprung von Mansell. Senna und Piquet innerhalb von einer halben Sekunde, Prost etwas abgeschlagen, Alboreto fast 1 Minute zurück und Johansson nach der Kollision mit Gerhard Berger überrundet. Gut, Ihnen vorhin von Marc Suhr erzählt, vielleicht habe ich jetzt dafür ein bisschen Zeit, während Mansell seinen Vorsprung mit 1:20,9 auf 17 Sekunden ausgebaut hat. Wenn er so weiterfährt, dann kommt er sogar noch unter 1:20. Verstehe nicht ganz, warum allerdings im Augenblick Rekordrunden dreht bei 17 Sekunden Vorsprung und noch 16 Runden zu fahren. Ich glaube nicht, dass er noch einen Reifenwechsel, Boxenstopp riskieren will. Aber Mansell hat uns ja schon zuletzt in Jerez in Spanien alle damit überrascht. So, ein Wort zu Marc Suhr. Formel-1-Karriere hat er heute beendet. 4 Monate nach seinem fürchterlichen Rallye-Unfall bei der Hessen-Rallye in Deutschland. Er hat gesagt, nicht aus Feigheit, nicht aus Angst und nicht einmal eigentlich aus Mut zur Feigheit, weil er ja selber weiß, dass man einen solchen Unfall höchstens ein einziges Mal in seinem Leben, in seiner Rennfahrerkarriere überleben kann. Suhr hat gesagt, ich habe 83 Grand-Prix-Rennen nie Glück gehabt, warum sollte ich jetzt auf einmal Glück haben? Ich habe einfach das Vertrauen in mein Glück in der Formel 1 verloren. Er möchte aber im Motorsport weitermachen, möchte nächstes Jahr die Tourenwagen-Weltmeisterschaft bestreiten, entweder für BMW oder für Ford. Ein Angebot ist bereits auf seinem Tisch und Marc Surer geht es gesundheitlich noch nicht so gut. Hofft, dass er zu Weihnachten fit ist. Sie müssen sich vorstellen, 11 Knochenbrüche, 41 Bluttransfusionen, 5-mal das komplette Blut ausgetauscht, tagelang die Gefahr einer Fettembolie aufgrund der komplizierten Brüche. Und noch eine Menge anderer Folgekrankheiten, die ich Ihnen, glaube ich, aber jetzt gar nicht alle aufzählen sollte. Ich weiß nur, dass Surer sogar Curare bekommen hat anstelle von Morphium, also das Pfeilgift der Indianer. Er hat harte Zeiten durchgemacht und er möchte nächstes Jahr im Motorsport wiederkommen. Momentan machen ihm die Brandwunden noch sehr, sehr starke Schmerzen und er spürt natürlich jeden Wetterumschwung ganz empfindlich und es hat hier an diesem Wochenende in Eschtoril mehrere Wetterumschwünge gegeben. Zurück zum Rennen, der Rückstand von Senna 18,7, in seinem Nacken unverändert, pausenlos auf einen Fehler von Senna lauernd und jetzt etwas zurückgefallen, Nelson Piquet. Prost fällt noch mehr zurück, 3 Sekunden hinter Piquet, 15 Runden noch zu fahren. Prost verliert also jetzt den Kontakt mit Senna und Piquet. Möglich auch, dass das letzte Viertel der Distanz vom Spritverbrauch bestimmt wird, dass die Taktik geprägt wird durch die Anzeigen des Benzinstands. McLaren hat immer 2 Liter Reserve eingebaut. Aber wie oft wurden die Fahrer in diesem Jahr schon vom eigenen Bordcomputer reingelegt? Durch falsche Anzeigen, durch Defekte. In 4 Teams gibt es eine direkte Sprechverbindung mit der Box. In Gerhard Bergers Benetton-Team, bei Williams, bei Lotus und bei Lola, wo man sich aber heute nicht mehr über viel unterhalten kann. Townley hat 7 Runden verloren wegen Bremsenentlüftung und Ellen Jones ist im Kampf mit Townley von der Strecke abgekommen, in den Sand gerutscht und ist schon auf dem Rückweg nach Australien. Der überrundete Kanadier Alan Burke. Bisher 9 Ausfälle, also genau ein Drittel. Rotengatter, Halbachse, Jones Unfall, Ginzani, Motor, Brandl, Motor, Streif, Motor, Alliot, Motor, Berger Unfall, Kollision mit Johansson, Warwick, Motor und Rosberg ebenfalls Motorschaden. In allen Teams haben schon die Vorbereitungen für den nächsten Grand Prix in Mexiko begonnen. Ein Grand Prix in Magdalena Mistuca in extremer Höhe, über 2500 Meter. Man wird sicher größere Turbolader brauchen und mit Rücksicht auf Mexiko überall schon Testfahrten. Renault hat in Le Castellet geheime Tests absolviert, McLaren in Imola. Ein sehr, sehr ungewisser Grand-Prix, ein Rennen mit sehr vielen Fragezeichen. Und dann kommt das Saisonfinale in Adelaide in Australien. Bleibt beim Stand des Rennens, wie er jetzt nach 59 Runden ist. Also erster Menzel, zweiter Senna, dritter Piquet und vierter Prost. Da würde Menzel natürlich seinen Vorsprung gewaltig ausbauen und hätte bereits 70 Punkte. Piquet hätte 60. Prost 56 und Senna 54. Das heißt, dass immer noch 4 Fahrer Weltmeister werden könnten. Das heißt allerdings auch, dass Piquet unter Umständen beim nächsten Rennen in Mexiko bereits den Titel verlieren könnte, bei einem 10-Punkte-Abstand zwischen Menzel und Piquet. Könnte sich Nigel Mansell unter Umständen theoretisch bereits in Mexiko den Weltmeistertitel sichern. Seit James Hunt 1976 war ja kein Engländer mehr Weltmeister. Und Hunt hat sicher auch profitiert von der dramatischen Situation um Niki Lauda beim Finale in Fuji.
For a long time, but this is what he has been looking like. Blue dot Mansell leads, green dot Senna second, yellow dot Piquet third, and you can see how close that is. Red dot Alain Prost in fourth position, and it's starting to look as though, unless there is a mechanical problem, it's going to stay that way, because Piquet has been trying so hard for so long. And there's the man of the race, absolutely no doubt about it. You got a good look at the tyres there, James? Didn't look as though there were any problems to me.
Yeah, they're much as they have been throughout the race, which quite clearly has been perfectly all right. They look a little bit scuffed, but it's certainly not slowing Nigel down, and he's still slowly, gently extending that lead. He's just on 19 seconds clear of the battle for second place, and he will in fact at the end of the race have a lot to thank Ayrton Senna for, because there's no doubt about it that Senna has been holding Piquet up, but not unfairly. He's driven very smoothly and very maturely in this race, and Piquet just really has failed to find a way round him. And that certainly has done Nigel Mansell a favour, and of course if things stay as they are, that extends his lead in the World Championship, and of course Mansell could then finish the job off in Mexico if things go well for him there.
Well, a word about tyres. We've said a few. We've had the very sad news this year that Pirelli, notwithstanding a superb effort and getting a magnificent product this year, are withdrawing from Grand Prix racing. They've only had one win, and that was Nelson Piquet in the French Grand Prix in the Brabham last year, since they came back, and they've lost heart a bit, which is a great pity. And Piquet now right up with Senna, but this will be Goodyear's 183rd Grand Prix win, a magnificent record, and it looks as though they will be supplying all the tyres to the Grand Prix teams next year. Lap 62, Mansell, Senna and Piquet. And I I'm just a little bit worried by the number that they have been showing in the top left corner of the screen. There's always a problem these days in getting the organisers to declare exactly how long the race is going to be, excluding the parade lap. We have them on their 63rd lap with 7 to go. And there's Palmer taking a quick look over his shoulder as Senna laps him. And Piquet has still to do so. The Englishman Jonathan Palmer in the Zach Speed, going well in 13th place and moving across Piquet's line. And Piquet will be very unhappy about this. He's losing contact with the second place man Ayrton Senna. And Piquet needs to get past Palmer, and quickly, if he's to leave himself with a fighting chance of getting second place, which he so badly needs. If they finish in the order that they're in now, Mansell leading, Senna second, and Piquet in third position, it means to say that the World Championship could well be decided in Mexico, notwithstanding what I said about Adelaide and Australia earlier on. But in order for that to happen, of course, Mansell would have to do extremely well in Mexico. No reason why he shouldn't. Look how well he's done already this year. 4 wins under his belt, and this looks like being the 5th. They are now on lap 63. Mansell, Senna, Piquet, Prost, Alboreto, who is 1 minute and 20 seconds now behind the leader, and that's nearly a lap. In fact, you'll probably see Nigel Mansell coming up to lap the Italian as Nelson Piquet goes through there. And really charging, Nelson Piquet. I wouldn't be at all surprised if he is now the fastest man on the circuit. He's got past Palmer, now he's flying in order to catch up Senna again. But we know what's happened in the past. We've been watching it for lap after lap. He may catch Senna, but catching is one thing, passing is another. And off goes Piquet. He really was trying. Now that's blown it. That's really blown it, and you may well have seen Nelson Piquet there losing all chance of winning the World Championship.
And I'm just about to say, before he spun then, that his front tyres aren't looking very healthy. But that was something that a driver of Nelson's experience should have felt, and that was clearly a bad mistake by Nelson Piquet. So Piquet now drops back behind Alain Prost. Here we see it again. Just letting the back of the car get away from him, failed to correct the slide off into the dirt, and that really hurts Piquet's chance of the championship a lot. A big breather for Nigel Mansell, though, because that helps his chances. It will enable him to extend his lead even further. Remember that Nelson Piquet was his nearest rival, and he's now dropped back to 4th place. So the best he can do is 3 points, really, because he's very unlikely to be able to catch Senna or Prost.
Did you get the import of that? Alain Prost has got ahead of Nelson Piquet and up into 3rd position. So the race order now on lap 65, as into the pits comes Riccardo Patrese, is Nigel Mansell leading by 16.5 seconds from Ayrton Senna 2nd. Alain Prost 6 seconds behind Senna in 3rd position, and now 11 seconds ahead of Nelson Piquet, who is down to 4th. 5th is Alboreto, Ferrari. 6th is Johansson, Ferrari. You're looking at Nelson Piquet in 4th position. No doubt furious with himself inside his helmet and the superheated cockpit of the Williams Honda on lap 65, I'm sorry, still coming up to complete it. Nigel Mansell is on his 66th lap. The Portuguese Grand Prix is not very far off being completed by the man we have seen so little of, Nigel Mansell, who, as Ayrton Senna did last year, has led from the time the lights turned to green until this moment. He has been unchallenged, even including the pit stop. And there's the flying Nelson Piquet. But he's overdone it, allowing for the fact that his tyres were giving him trouble, obviously. It's still Mansell, 15 seconds ahead of Senna, 5 seconds ahead of Prost, who is 14 seconds ahead of Piquet, and it looks like the race order now is firmed up as far as the first 4 places are concerned anyway. The 2 Ferraris, 5th and 6th, are demonstrating once again that they are reliable, but once again that they are not good enough to win. And John Barnard, who we are still waiting to hear officially is joining Ferrari, having left McLaren, is going to have to do a very, very big job for the magnificent Italian concern that's dominated and been at the top of Grand Prix racing since the World Championship started in 1950. It needs to get them back at the top in 1987. And all of Italy will be certainly looking at him to do so. As Piquet now with Johansson very close to him, Alboreto very close to him in 4th position, but on the circuit, that is, the Ferrari is actually a lap down, and there is Nigel Mansell now on his 67th lap. And we're going to be watching very carefully when he comes through, because we reckon he's got 3 laps to go, and the number there showed 4. And I promise you that this is not us being out of touch. It's regrettable that this sort of thing has happened in the recent past. There is not a clear enough declaration of the race distance excluding the warm-up lap, which may seem incredible to you, but is a fact. And there's Nigel Mansell, anyway, on his 67th lap. Smooth as silk. A great credit to the Patrick Head-designed FW11 Williams chassis. A great credit to the Goodyear tyres and, of course, to the Honda engine. And he's now up behind Johnny Dumfries in 9th position. There's Patrick Tambay, there's Thierry Boutsen, there is Christian Danner, and Patrick Tambay, Boutsen and Danner are 10th and 11th. And Patrick Tambay is in 16th place as you look at Ayrton Senna, 2nd.
And Alan Prost not very far behind at all, just... And Prost tracking Senna all the way, looking for any mistake, any slight mechanical hiccup. He doesn't look strong enough on today's form to really challenge Senna, but he's certainly ready to pick up the pieces.
Nigel Mansell on his way to lift his World Championship points score to 70.
Die Williams Honda werden also zum 9. Mal in diesem Jahr den Grand Prix gewinnen und zum 5. Mal der Sieger Nigel Mansell. 3 Runden noch. 3 Runden auch noch für Ayrton Senna, aber der brasilianische Wunderknabe hat im Training schon einige Mirakel vollbracht, aber im Rennen kann er das heute nicht. Demnächst soll er noch 13 Sekunden aufholen. Wenn Nigel Mansell da mal durchfährt, dann kann er nicht zum Team.
And there is Mansell. And Williams will have won if Mansell finishes where he is now, their 9th Grand Prix in 14 races in 1986. An absolutely magnificent achievement. In 1984 and 1985, McLaren was the car and the team to beat, with Lauda and Prost, and then now Prost and Rosberg. But this year, 1986, Williams have shown the way with just 2 wins for Lotus in the form of Ayrton Senna, and 3 wins for McLaren in the form of Alain Prost, and all the rest victories for the Didcot-based Williams-Honda team, with the gap 13.7 seconds between Nigel Mansell and Ayrton Senna. A race very much in its closing stages. Nigel Mansell on his way to his 5th magnificent victory of 1986. I've said this before, I'll say it again. The red carpet will be out at Ronaldsway Airport in the Isle of Man, where Nigel Mansell has his superb home overlooking Port Erin with the sea around him. And that's where he goes for the quiet time between races. He crosses the line now. And you can see how humid the atmosphere is. Now we are with the almost certain winner of the 1986 Portuguese Grand Prix, which in 1984 was won by Alain Prost. Last year was won by Senna. This year, question mark, almost certainly by Red 5, Nigel Mansell.
Yes, and Nigel Mansell has, after a blistering start, he got the drop on Ayrton Senna from second place on the grid, and really he's completely dominated this Grand Prix. A little bit helped by Ayrton Senna behind him, who I think was holding up Nelson Piquet for a while, but Piquet eventually, in his frustration at being unable to pass Senna, made a mistake of his own and had a spin. And Nigel Mansell, never very far in front, always under pressure, always having to drive hard, never more than 20 seconds in the lead. And Mansell really has shown great maturity in this race. Never put a foot wrong. And now coming serenely home to a well-deserved win. Able to ease up a little bit now. Senna runs behind him in second place. Senna also drove a very mature race. He held on to his second place all the way. And Mansell takes the checkered flag.
Yes, Nigel Mansell, overjoyed with every conceivable reason, takes his 5th Grand Prix win of 1986 to increase his World Championship score to 70 points. Now, where's Ayrton Senna? Ayrton Senna should have been home second by now, but he's gone missing. The seconds have gone by and Senna is missing. And it's Alain Prost that finishes in second place. And Nelson Piquet third. And oh, what bitter luck. Ayrton Senna cruising. It looks as though he's run out of petrol. And he finishes in 4th position.
Theo Fabi stehen. Auch er kommt nicht mehr weiter. Also hat doch das Benzin noch eine Rolle gespielt hier auf den allerletzten Metern sozusagen. Da kommt Alboreto, Ferrari und Tambay auf dem Ford. Unbeeindruckt von allem. Der Mann dieses Tages, der Mann dieses Rennens, der vom Start weg am trainingsschnellsten Senna vorbeigehend das Rennen diktiert hat, einen Vorsprung von über 18 Sekunden ins Ziel gefahren hat, einen Vorsprung, den er schon ziemlich früh gehabt hat. Sie erinnern sich, 8 Sekunden hatte er schon nach 20 Runden, hat den Vorsprung dann immer vergrößert noch. Hier der zweite neben ihm, Alain Prost, der damit allerdings auch wieder einige Chancen auf die Weltmeisterschaft hat. Alain Prost, und da kommt Senna, der auf den letzten Metern noch zurückgefallen ist. Ich konnte hier aus dem Fenster beobachten, wie er plötzlich langsamer wurde. Die Kamera hat sich leider in dieser Phase ganz konzentriert auf den Sieger. Das hat natürlich auch etwas vor sich, aber es hat dieses Drama dann doch nicht mehr zeigen können, mit dem allerdings auch hier kaum einer gerechnet hatte. Denn es galt als sicher, auch Niki Lauda sagte ja, ziemlich sicher werden die Fahrer mit dem Sprit hier rauskommen. Aber nun hat dann Senna doch etwas mehr Sprit gebraucht. Sehr schade für Nelson Piquet, der ohne diesen Fahrfehler dann die beste Chance gehabt hätte, auf dem letzten Kilometer doch noch an Senna vorbeizukommen.
We kijken naar dat rechte stuk met hun vele tienduizenden waar die langzaam aan komt rollen. En waar die het misschien niet eens gaat halen die laatste meters. Nou, kijk eens schudden daar. Jongen. Ook dat hoort natuurlijk bij een Formule 1 racerij. Je krijgt 195 liter mee en geen druppel meer. Geen druppel meer. Hij haalt het wel, want het is bergafwaarts daar. Hij moet het halen. Maar hij komt niet. Ja, hij haalt het. En de fotografen mogen de baan op van de wedstrijdleiding. Het publiek staat hier te juichen. Ja hoor, ze zijn er verschrikkelijk blij mee dat hij over de finish is. En volgens onze gegevens staat hij in de officiële uitslag toch op de 4e positie. Dat doet hij ook na 70 ronden. Staat Senna op de 4e positie en pakt daarmee toch nog punten. Punten die we voor u gaan inventariseren. Nigel Mansell stond op kop met 61 punten, krijgt er 9 bij, komt op 70, verstevigt zijn positie. Daar stapt Senna uit en denk maar niet dat hij blij is. Nelson Piquet dan, wordt derde, krijgt er 4 punten bij, komt op 60 punten. Alain Prost wordt tweede, krijgt er 6 punten bij, komt op 59 punten. Hier de officiële uitslag. Ayrton Senna dan wordt vierde, krijgt er 3 punten bij en komt op 51 punten. Dat zijn de 4 belangrijkste rijders. Nigel Mansell blijft dus op kop met 70 punten, gevolgd op 10 punten achterstand door Nelson Piquet. Dan 1 puntje slechts tussen hem en Prost op een derde plaats. 59 punten voor Alain Prost. En op de vierde plaats Ayrton Senna met 48 punten plus 3 is 51. Wij gaan kijken of we de ceremonie protocolair nog voor u mee kunnen nemen. Daar is Ayrton Senna. En dan moeten wij Hilversum mededelen dat de Portugese regie 2 minuten na de champagne zal afsluiten. Laten we dus hopen dat we de champagne mee kunnen nemen. En 2 minuten daarna is het beeldaanbod afgelopen. We kunnen hier vandaan het podium niet zien. Er staan inmiddels vele mensen voor. U ziet hier een totaalshot van dat circuit. Daarachter ziet u de prachtige blauwe oceaan. De mooie stranden van Eschtoril en Cascais. Waar het zeker goed toeven is. Dat kunnen we u nu uit ervaring melden. Hier de nieuwe stand van het wereldkampioenschap. 70 punten voor Mansell, 60 voor Piquet. Heel close daarachter Alain Prost met 59 punten. Dan Senna met 51 punten, Rosberg 22, Johansson 19, Lafitte 14, Alboreto 14, Arnoux 14 en Berger 6. Of zijn het er 8? Nee, het zijn er 8, sorry. Ja, en dan wordt nu toch de situatie actueel van die puntentelling waarbij ik u zei de 11 beste resultaten tellen mee. Wel nu. Mansell heeft nu 11 keer gescoord. Dat betekent dat bij het volgende resultaat wat hij behaalt, het laagste aantal punten er afgetrokken gaat worden. En dat is in dit geval de Grand-Pri van Amerika geweest, waar hij 2 punten behaalde met een 5e positie. Waar het zijn directe concurrenten betreft, Nelson Piquet en Alain Prost, die hebben slechts 9 keer gescoord. We zien hier de stand voor de constructeurs. Williams Honda nu dus 130 punten, loopt onmogelijk ver weg van McLaren en Lotus Renault. Piquet en Prost hebben nu dus 9 keer gescoord, mogen nog 2 keer volop scoren voordat ze punten moeten gaan aftrekken. Hier de winnaar, Nigel Mansell, in de auto naar het podium gebracht waar Jean-Marie Balestre klaar staat om de bekers uit te reiken. Maar dan nog, als hij gaat scoren en punten af moet trekken, dan nog is er volgens ons weinig aan de hand. Want met 5 overwinningen in de knip en met 2 tweede plaatsen ben je toch eigenlijk de grote favoriet voor het wereldkampioenschap. Hier Alain Prost, Lucky Alain Prost. Prost die lang vierde reed, die toen die spin zag van Piquet en daardoor derde werd. Die toen zag dat Ayrton Senna zonder prut kwam te staan en daardoor tweede werd. En nu dus 6 belangrijke punten behaalt. En daarmee de aansluiting behoudt met Piquet hier in beeld. En met deze leider in het wereldkampioenschap, Nigel Mansell. En wat wij dan niet horen zal waarschijnlijk zijn het spelen van de volksliederen. Mansell die zoals gewoonlijk weer helemaal stuk zit. Die toch iets meer aan zijn conditie zal moeten gaan doen, denken wij. Want na iedere race is hij volledig op. Maar goed, hij redt het er wel mee, hij scoort er wel mee. Hij is blij en wordt zeer amicaal en vriendelijk gefeliciteerd door Alain Prost. Prost die ook andermans overwinningen weet te waarderen. En Prost die ook weet dat hij nog zeker niet kansloos is. Dit eigenlijk, deze uitslag, zijn de 3 grote kanshebbers ook op volgorde. Mansell met de beste papieren, dan tweede Piquet en dan derde Prost in die stand. Dat is eigenlijk ook de volgorde bijna van de uitslag. Dat was dan Mansell, Prost, Piquet. Maar het verschil is maar 1 puntje in die stand, dus dat maakt weinig uit. Hier komt de champagne. Dat moet voor Hilsum het teken zijn dat we straks geen beeldaanbod meer hebben. De standen nogmaals in beeld gebracht van de 4 mogelijke kampioenskandidaten. Linksboven, daar ziet u Nigel Mansell. Rechts daarnaast Nelson Piquet. Dan linksonder Alain Prost. En rechtsonder de toch wel pechvolle Ayrton Senna. Die vandaag dan wel gescoord heeft. Maar minder als dat in de lijn van de race lag. Ik denk dat ik af moet sluiten. Met hier in beeld een prachtige kleine racewagen van plexiglas die inmiddels ook sloopt voor Nigel Mansell. Dit was het vanuit Eschtoril. Uw commentator was Kees Berhard voor Europa TV. Wij gaan er vandoor. We gaan morgen weer naar huis en zien u graag terug aan de buis op 12 oktober aanstaande voor de Grand-Prix van Mexico. De voorlaatste met daarna alleen nog Australië te gaan. Dank voor uw aandacht en graag tot in Mexico.
Yes,